Chapter 7. A Lady's Vendetta. Less than an hour ago, the Duke of Manhattan had been dying. His entire body, big though it was, had been slowly turning from soft, flabby flesh into cold, hardened stone, one cell at a time as the petrified regression disease consumed him. But to look at him now, it could have all been a bad dream. A nightmare that never happened.
You're going to say
I didn't think I was going to make it, my dear.
The Duke chortled to the black-suited woman at his side. He was in a particularly jolly mood, his laughter booming around Ward 26 as he demanded glasses of freshly poured champagne for all and sundry in order to celebrate his recovery in style. The life and colour had returned to his face, and he didn't seem to be in any pain whatsoever. Every sign and symptom of his illness, his incurable illness, was gone. As the doctor peered round the curtain with a polite smile, the Duke saw him and beamed.
It's that man again!
He roared, waving him over like the two of them were old friends.
He's my good luck charm, you know. Come in, come in. Don't be shy.
Towering in her high heels, the imperious Frau Clovis turned her enormous eyes on the doctor again. Any friendship expressed by the Duke of Manhattan does not constitute a form of legal contract, she informed him quickly, not forgetting her disclaimer duties even on a joyous occasion like this one. Her own champagne glass was nearly untouched, though she did look considerably more cheerful than earlier. The Duke waved away the formalities with a spectacular belch.
Winch me up,
he ordered, flashing a wink and a hefty thumbs up in the doctor's direction. Sick or healthy, dying or not, he was always bossing her about. Clovis dutifully picked up a remote control from the Duke's bedside and pointed it at the large traction winch supporting her gargantuan employer. With a click and a whir, the top half of the Duke's bed tilted him leisurely upright like a great blubbery sofa until his bulk was drooping over the sides.
Up! Look at me! No sign of infection.
And indeed, it was almost surreal to see him sitting so pompously up in bed, an oversized picture of health, or very nearly, his skin a raucous shade of pink, where it had been stone not 30 minutes before. Champagne, sir? The Duke's uniformed butler, in the silent manner customary to the breed, had sidled up to the doctor and proffered him a glass. No thanks, said the doctor, who was inspecting the IV drip next to the Duke's bed. Sorry, Your Grace, but you had petrified regression, right? The Duke grinned broadly, already quite ruddy-faced from the champagne, and patted his great bloated belly. He seemed to find this hilarious.
Had being the operative word. Past tense. Completely cured. It's a miracle, I tell you.
The doctor stared in disbelief. But that's impossible. A stern voice grabbed his attention close by. Primitive species would accuse us of magic, but it's merely the tender application of science. An older, formidable-looking sister had quietly appeared at his elbow. It was the same Catwoman he and Rose had met down in the foyer, except she now appeared particularly pleased with herself. The doctor rounded on her. How on earth did you cure him? The sister bared her teeth in the vaguest approximation of a smile. How on new earth, you might say. But quips and jokes weren't nearly as funny or clever when the doctor himself wasn't giving them. So he frowned instead and nodded to the IV fluids at the Duke's bedside, bright orange and clear midnight blue, that were being drip-fed into his arm. What's in that solution? A simple remedy. Then tell me what it is, the doctor challenged. I'm sorry, the cat nun shot back, not sounding sorry at all. Patient confidentiality. She peered up at him, eyes narrowing as they took in the scruffy hair and tight brown suit. Her whiskers twitched in silent judgment. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. My name is Matron Casp, Sister Superior and Administrator to this hospital. He forced a short smile. I'm the doctor. The matron's eyes, now mere slits, flashed dangerously. I think you'll find that we're the doctors here. Matron Casp. It was Jad, the sister from earlier, hurrying up to them. You're needed in intensive care. Casp bowed ever so politely to the doctor. If you would excuse me, she said, once again not sounding the least bit apologetic. The doctor nodded ever so politely back, still holding that pained, false smile. The matron struck him as the kind of cat who had probably grown up as the eldest of her litter, used to getting her own way. He also got the impression she didn't like him very much. Rose needed to see this. Unless he had his millenniums mixed up, there was something very not right about this hospital. Deadly diseases were being cured far too early, all in a matter of hours. The sooner she got here, the better. Come to think of it, even Rose had sounded a little strange on the phone just now. She'd obviously felt their conversation had gone swimmingly, giggling down the line like a naughty siren, but something in her voice had made him press the receiver a little harder to his ear. A bright, girlish buzz that didn't quite fit. The doctor decided to put it out of his mind for now. This whole place was getting to him. Pink and yellow, apples and pears. Rose was just being silly. He watched the cats pick up a swift pace as they left him, Sister Jad whispering urgently to the matron under her breath. It's happened again. One of the patients is conscious. Well, we can't have that. Doctor. Chip had memorized the name. He whispered it to himself over and over so he didn't forget. Doctor, doctor, doctor. This man was important to the mistress, although Chip didn't understand why. It wasn't for him to understand, not for him to question. The mistress told him what to do, and would tell him more if she decided he needed to know. It had always been like this between them. He thought about that sometimes, times like now, looking at the mistress's old brain, breathtaking, even in death, and the young, sprightly new home she'd made for herself in the form of one unsuspecting Rose Tyler. The mistress was beautiful and clever, magnificent. She'd bested the years that ought to have cut her down long ago. So it was only right, surely, that she was better than Chip. But to go up to the surface in search of the doctor, he still couldn't conceive why the mistress had to do that. That's why she had him, wasn't it? Her Chip, to be her ears and eyes around the hospital, to see and hear what she could not. He tried not to fret too much, really he did. The mistress hadn't grown him this way so he could fret. Brain tissue was valuable after all. Chip knew how lucky he was to have her. Lucky. He'd be nothing without her, just a snatch of skin somewhere on a petri dish. Chip couldn't really conceive of that either, but the mistress had told him it was true, and he trusted that it was. Yet something was different about her today. Something had changed ever since she'd been let out of her frame and singled out the Tyler girl as her body donor of choice. Ever since the psychograph had made her properly mobile again. Chip didn't like change. Change meant the mistress was starting afresh with a brand new lease on life and could afford to laugh off his concerns. Change meant she wouldn't need medicine or moisturizing or even a reason to listen to him anymore. But why? He'd been a good pet to her, hadn't he? Hadn't he? Rose, 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 muttered Cassandra under her breath. She was trying to get into character, pouting at her reflection in a passable imitation of that sullen look the brat always had on her face. I'm Rose, I'm nice and sweet and good. She'd been busy before the mirror, paring tacky Miss Tyler down to her barest essentials. Just a few innocent tweaks and touch-ups, the kind a lady makes in order to please the eyes of men. Zip down, jacket off, a fair few buttons undone on the short-sleeved purple confection she wore underneath. Anything that might give Blondie's body some oomph and make a decent impression on this fancy new doctor. He certainly was a looker, you had to admit. Rose's surface memories didn't exactly skimp on the details. Full head of hair, dark brown eyes, a rather tight suit too. And my, oh my, that face. Those skin grafts must have cost a fortune. Cassandra regarded her own stolen visage in the mirror, tried sucking in the girl's cheeks to make hollows. But there was no way she could keep that up, not if she actually wished to speak from time to time. She preened for all she was worth, hands everywhere at once, hefting and hoisting the many delights of her feminine form. The seduction game was one she hadn't played in centuries. At least this new body of hers didn't need any more breaking in. Not really. It felt broken in enough for Cassandra's liking. And firm and sensitive too, and most assuredly ripe for a quick bit of pinching. Ouch! She dropped her hands. All right, maybe not that quick. Chip had been watching closely in the mirror's reflection, eyes wide as saucers. His strangled gulp eventually caught Cassandra's attention. "Oh, do forgive me," she sang out, as if only just noticing he was there. "It's just been so long since I—" She paused and gave a peculiar little laugh as she turned to look at herself over one shoulder. "Well, since I was really human, I suppose." "Now, you were saying—" Chip wrung his little hands together. For whatever reason, his mistress had now deemed it necessary to bend Rose's body over at the waist and tease some vigorous volume into her hair. But despite the view she provided, he was getting nearly desperate with worry.
"Perhaps m'lady should stay here," he offered. "Or we could leave the hospital. Find a new hiding spot?"
"No!" Cassandra snapped back upright in an angry whirl, and Chip cringed like a whipped dog. "No," she said again, more sweetly this time. "I've told you before, dearest, this place has secrets it doesn't feel like sharing, and I can use that. I'll not allow the doctor to force me back on the run."
"But this doctor man is dangerous,"
Chip whined. "Dangerous and clever," Cassandra corrected him, resisting the urge to roll her eyes. It was easy to forget what a bore he could be sometimes. "I might need a mind like his." She enjoyed making him watch, tossing back heaps of tousled blonde hair with all the dramatic grace of a horse redirecting its mane. Typical. The silly little madam had some split ends she hadn't attended to. But it was Cassandra's hair now, delightfully dishevelled, like she'd just taken a quick tumble between the sheets. Her little pet did have a point, though. Going after the doctor wasn't the most prudent course of action. But Cassandra also remembered just how capably he'd managed to unravel her plans back on Platform 1. That alone had to count for something. Besides, she tugged Rose's neckline another scandalous inch lower. He was still a man, wasn't he? So why not give him a taste of what he'd never have again? Not for as long as he lived. New Rose for a new doctor. Seems only fitting, n'est-ce pas? Chip looked rather put out. It wasn't like the mistress to be this determined or distracted. But he kept quiet, not wanting to intrude, as she reluctantly took her new hands away from their fun and delved into a small supply of cosmetics he'd collected from the wards upstairs. All the paints, powders, and other beauty whatnots which had kept his lady so pretty while in skin form. "Just look at this definition," Cassandra breathed, peering wide-eyed into the mirror while she went to work on Rose's face. "I must say her complexion is rather good, isn't it? For a bottle blonde tart, she certainly knows a thing or two about moisturizing. Chip couldn't help himself.
But mistress,
He grovelled.
it isn't safe. The sisterhood.
The sisterhood is up to something, Cassandra reminded him testily as she glared through a thick layer of black mascara. Remember that old Earth saying?
Which one?
Her pet looked suddenly bewildered.
There are so many. Chip gets confused.
Never trust in none. Cassandra had now moved on from mascara to lipstick, puckering up to smear a glossy red gash across Rose's mouth. Never trust a nurse, and never trust a cat. Words to live by. She smacked the girl's lips together with a smile, then stepped back from the mirror to admire her handiwork. Oh, yes, that would do. That would do very well indeed. Not quite up to her usual glamorous standards. Frankly, even the makeup job was a tad overdone, but looks had always stood the Lady Cassandra well, even now. Good, pure-blood genes, that. And with her brand new body ready to go, the doctor would have no idea that she was anyone other than plain old Rose Tyler. Right. Now for the pièce de résistance, her favourite part of this masquerade. Finished with her mirror gazing, Cassandra turned briskly to her servant and held out her hand.
Perfume?
Chip placed a small glass spray vial in her palm. Without a word of thanks, she tucked it away down the soft plunge of Rose's cleavage. Ooh, naughty. There was barely enough inside to fill a teaspoon. But the two of them had been preparing for this day for quite some time. They both knew only a single squirt would be needed. Ready or not, Doctor, here I come. Deep breath, one last zhuzh of her hair, and out of the dungeon she breezed. A very different Rose Tyler from the one who'd walked in 40 minutes ago. As she marched her way back to the lifts with Chip scurrying behind, Cassandra's parting shot echoed down the hall. These legs are walking.